Where's the line to when it becomes distasteful and unbelievable to redeem any of these people? When is it like, no, they're a bad guy and they know they're a bad guy and that's just who they're going to be forever?
Um,
Uh,
hmm.
Yeah, like could you honestly believe Red Skull becoming a good guy? No.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, it's the same thing with Frieza. Like, could you honestly believe him, you know, for a second being good after everything he's done and take great pleasure in it, you know?
Mhm.
It's it's impossible to think of. But on the other hand, you look at Magneto and you can, despite all of what he's done, you can almost see why he's still like on the X-Men side even to this day.
Mhm.
Because yeah, he's everything he does is for his people, and yeah, you can see why.
Magneto. I think Magneto is kind of like what Ian was saying about Poison Ivy. When he was introduced, really for the first like 10 years, he was as evil as the Red Skull or Doctor Doom. Like he was just like a big ball of rage, and he would just like throw his henchmen into the wall for failing him. Like there was no. He wasn't a tragic anti-hero. He didn't have any pathos. He was just evil. And then mid 70s, early 80s is when they start giving him backstory. And by that point, I think we were starting to get into this, like you said, like he's doing this for his people. He's not doing it. He's not acting out of self-interest. And I think that is where, even when he's doing things that the heroes won't do, you can't call him a villain anymore because he's not acting in his own interests. The first Secret Wars you have all these heroes on one half of this patchwork world and then all the villains on the other half, and the Beyonder puts Magneto with the heroes because he isn't doing it for himself. And so I feel like at that point, you've had patches in the 90s where he went back to being an enemy of the X-Men, but it's hard to keep him in that alignment because of all the time he spent like acting in the interest of others. So like he really is a lot like Dexter or the Punisher, just with superpowers, at least nowadays.
Riddle Me That, Legends of the Dark Knight 185 to 189 is hands down the best Riddler story ever told, and it is a crime against humanity that has never been collected for people to read.
Yeah, I've never been able to read that, so I can't really attest to that.
It's so unbelievably good. They do a whole relaunch of the character, give him a new design.
This had like the green. That's how he got the green tuxedo, right?
No. They lose almost all of the green. At one point, he wears a green shirt. That's it, like a green dress shirt. What they give him is question mark tattoos all over his body. He wears black suit with a green dress shirt underneath it, and he is just fucking brilliant. And there's so many good scenes in that. There's a moment where he's talking to Batman and he's giving him like the whole rundown of everything that's going on, and they're just kind of standing in a warehouse, and Batman's like circling him, like doing his like kind of moving shadow kind of thing, circling him, and then Batman just comes like right up behind him and passes his arm through him, because the whole time you realize that Batman's been talking to a hologram. And Riddler looks at him and goes, "How'd you know?" And Batman says, "You have no scent. You are worth every penny." It's just, it's such a good little, like, cat and mouse mind game shit, and I love it to death. I will always, always recommend Riddle Me That. It is, again, hands down the best Riddler story, and I don't want to talk about it too much, besides just saying that it's a really, really strong take and relaunch for the character, and you honestly could just adapt it into a film. It could have been the next Nolan Batman. Like, that was the thing I was arguing to happen before we even got confirmation that there was going to be a sequel to Dark Knight. Is they should just adapt that story. It's a cool action thing. There's fights, there's drama, there's explosions. It's and it's all just a mental game. The only thing I can really think to compare it to is Game of Shadows, Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr.
Roger Corman was talking about when, like, Star Wars and Jaws had become really big major hits. He had talked about how the films that he did were now becoming mainstream, and it was more difficult for his type of filmmaking to compete because B movies were now A movies, and there was a certain new expectation of those types of films. So in a way, there was kind of like a transition. You know, there's a type of filmmaking that has kind of been lost, where you had a smaller budget to make a science fiction film, and you had to kind of be clever and do what you can. Now a lot of science fiction films have fairly gargantuan budgets, and
yeah, even when they're failures, like Jupiter.
Yeah, like,
was that Jupiter Ascending?
Yeah, Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, like that film. And what I've been seeing over the last few months since you asked me to co-host the fan film series is with you, is I'm watching people make these types of movies on a shoestring budget and have to be clever and have to really think about each shot and how to make it look right and make it look as good enough to compete with the mainstream films on, like, shoestring budgets. And that's been actually kind of exciting for someone who likes cult movies, like, you know, from the 50s, 60s, 70s. It's really cool to see kind of that type of filmmaking here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's really, really impressive stuff that people can do, and you know, it's that type of creativity born out of having to work in less than ideal circumstances. It's that creativity of overcoming.
Correct.
And that's always really impressive stuff.
And this film looks gorgeous, and whatever kind of, like, praise or reward these guys are getting, I think they deserve it. This is a really good movie.